Hey, everybody, welcome to the Unconquered. I have Rebecca Ramirez, one of my first private coaching clients on. She's had an incredible corporate career and very similar to me, was unhappy about some things in that corporate career, just unhappy with some things in the way that she was living her life. She went on this journey of self discovery, self healing, and is now, I would say, in a much better place, in a
Yes.
much better state of mind, and she's here to tell a little bit about her story. And I'm super excited because I know that learning from her, a lot of people are going to be really positively impacted. So, where I really like to start is when we first met. Why don't you take us back to that place, a little bit about, your upbringing, the things that were in your life, I'd say even a year, 2, 5, 6 years ago, that compounded to help bring you to this place of making this big life change. Because I'd say you made some pretty major life changes, but bring us back before you made the changes, and tell us about where you came from.
Okay. Yeah. So, I'll kind of start from the furthest back. Well, maybe about 5 years ago, I was in a marriage that was not serving me. Had to come to the realization, that I had a 2-year-old daughter at the time. Do I want this for me and her? And had to really make some decisions like, do I want to be happy or do I not want to be happy? So I made the decision to end the marriage that wasn't serving me at the time in pursuit of happiness. I didn't know what happiness looked like. I just knew that I wasn't there. And through that divorce, I had learned really more of what I didn't want out of a partner, what I didn't want out of life. I didn't want to be stuck in a position to where I was felt like I was basically spinning my wheels. I didn't want to be with someone that I didn't feel appreciated me, that loved me for who I was, that didn't make me feel that I had to be someone else in order to be loved. And through leaving that marriage and finding really what I wanted through what I knew I didn't, I met my current husband now, who is a wonderful godsend of a human being. He is exactly everything that it is that I wanted. He loves me for who I am. He supports me through everything that it is that I do. Ultimately is smart and good looking, if I may say so. The total package. So I'm really happy now in my personal life, my love life, if you would say. But even then, like back then, and then through finding my current husband, which I found him through where I work, and that brings me to my next point. I was not happy, and for the longest time until recently, was not happy with my work life. I was in a career where I wasn't getting anywhere to where fast. And despite getting the education, getting the certifications, constantly doing what it is that I needed to do to stand out above my peers, I felt like I had done a lot of developing within myself, really to learn how to communicate with other people, how to develop my leadership style. I would constantly go the extra mile. I was sought out, to do special projects, things of that nature. I was very well coveted, for my leadership skills, but yet I just could never really get anywhere in my career. And that got to me. I had transitioned companies. It started working with my husband at a new company and doing the same thing. It was, in the auto finance space.
Hmm.
And I, thought that, maybe coming over to a different company, new scenery might make things better. It didn't. Found myself even more miserable than the place that I had left, all due just to the poor leadership that I experienced and the just basically my whole experience with the people that I worked with and who I answered to. So I left my industry, not really knowing where I was going, what I wanted to do, similar to how when I left my the marriage that wasn't serving me, I left jobs, a career that wasn't serving me in pursuit of something better. And I'm in a much happier space now because I'm no longer dealing with some of the poor things that I was dealing with. I mean, I don't want to call anyone out or anything like that, personally, but I'm just in a much happier space because I'm with people who value me.
And there's so many similarities between you and I that I can point out, and I think many people like us go through something similar at some point in their life.
Yeah.
And before we get into the career stuff, one thing that I really want to unpack, because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about it, is the importance of love and acceptance. And it doesn't just have to be from a romantic standpoint in a spouse or significant other, but just in general. I've found in my life that a lot of the rejection I've faced from family and people who I loved or once valued, um, really came from a place where I realized that, no, even if they said the love was unconditional, it really wasn't. And I found myself under conditions of, I need to live my life a certain way. I need to have some type of job title or some status of income or zip code in which I live in order to earn the love of other people.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you went, is that a fair assessment to say that that's similar to what you kind of went through?
Yeah, I had parents who pushed me. I mean, thankfully. I mean, I know, some kids don't get that, and
Hmm.
it's unfortunate. I did. I was fortunate enough to have parents that pushed me. And because of that, I always felt like I knew I was smart, so I couldn't get away with, ever having the excuse of, well, I just couldn't do it because I wasn't smart enough or anything like that. Everyone knew that I was very smart and capable, so I felt like I had to keep this standard.
Hmm.
Um Unfortunately, it's something that you said really resonated with me, in that, it's not really that you're looking for love and acceptance of other people. It's that you're looking for that within yourself.
Hmm.
And that's what I was constantly searching for. I thought that I was doing this, oh, I want to get this job, to make everyone around me proud. And yeah, that was part of it. I wanted to, everyone to be proud of me and to really see me for a successful person, but it was really doing that to prove that to myself.
Hmm. Hmm. And I know for me, I grew up in a very shame-based household. Um, and so to learn how to love myself, well, I'm still on that journey in a lot of ways. I still work on that on a daily basis. When I look in the mirror, I remind myself, hey, what is it that's going to help me love myself today? I've found personally that if I can't live my life and move from a place of self love, I'm not able to love anyone else the way that they deserve to be loved. I have to learn how to love myself unconditionally, and then I can start bringing that to the world. Was there any kind of moment in your life that you kind of came to that same realization?
Of needing to love yourself in order to bring, yeah. There was a moment where I was sitting on my bed and I was feeling like nothing was going right in my life, right? Like things were going right. Obviously, I had a better marriage now than what I did. I was no longer in a toxic work environment, but I guess I couldn't see the blessing in those things. I don't know what it was, but I just remember sitting here thinking, gosh, everything that I've tried to do really isn't working. There's things that I want to do, but I just can't find a way to make them happen. And for the longest time, I wasn't really, I didn't have a relationship with God.
Hmm.
I had cut that off. And a lot of the reason is because I just didn't really find, I had some religious trauma. I'll just leave it there.
Hmm.
But to, I remember sitting on the bed and just finally being like, okay, you know what, God, are you the answer? Are you the missing piece? Is nothing else working in my life because you're not in it? And I said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna do better about following you. I'm gonna do better about honoring you. I'm gonna do better about all these things. Um, and when that happened, things started turning around like almost instantly.
So I'm so glad that you brought that up. I'm a man of God. I'm a Christian. I do believe that people need some source of faith or belief in their life. Of course, I'm always going to be biased to my own faith, but it's so hard to live a successful life. In fact, I don't know of many people. I know there are some. Just me personally, I don't know of many people who lead successful lives without any type of faith, without any type of belief in a higher power. Um, Now, as you kind of made that transition, the reason I wanted to kind of start with the love, the spirituality, the emotional standpoint is because so many people, especially in Western society, I think try to compartmentalize
Yeah.
their lives. And there's a personal life, and there's a professional life, and there's a home life, and there's a career, and I'm going to work out because it's physical exercise and I want to be, physically good looking or physically strong, physically fit. Whereas, I might practice some mindfulness for my emotional state, and I might go to church for my spiritual state. What I've found though is that all of these things are really interconnected. And what I find interesting is it's kind of started with the marriage, started with the love, because that's a deeply emotional, spiritual feeling. And then once you started making those changes, well, then your mind started to realize, well, you know what? Like, not only is it maybe my personal life, my spouse, that has put some of these conditions on me that isn't fair to me as a person, and you grew past that, you grew out of that.
Mhm.
Then you started realizing that, hey, like, there's some real issues with what I'm doing professionally in my career. And I know you're really passionate about that area. And I think we both are, right? We both feel like there's a leadership crisis in a lot of corporate America. Can you kind of take us through your experiences in corporate America and some of the ways that, for lack of a better term, it kind of failed you as a professional? Because I want to put this out here. I'm a college professor. And Rebecca, you're one of the most credentialed, educated people that I've met. I mean, when we first met, you were telling me, "Oh, I'm taking these classes, I'm getting this degree," and you already have a number of different degrees, a number of different credentials. You're always trying to better yourself, and I always admired and respected that about you. But then I think you came to this place of confidence of like, "Hey, like, this isn't about me anymore. This is actually a failure on corporate America.
Yeah.
I don't need to go to school anymore. It's not my lack of education. It's not my lack of leadership. It's your lack of leadership. It's your lack of acknowledgement. It's your lack of recognition. It's your lack of appreciation and gratitude for the amount of work and the amount of energy that you would put in to your job. If you could kind of just take us back there, I'd like to explore and unpack those career experiences because I think they're so powerful.
Yeah. What it really boiled down to ultimately were leaders who were not developed being put into positions to lead other leaders and or make. Some were so high up in that they were making, business decisions for either just our localized business unit or for the company. And or my experience was, with a lot of those leaders, they were not open to new ideas, or they would take your ideas and credential themselves with having birthed that idea. Or the even bigger unfortunate thing is just not really liking your idea, finding ways to put it down because they didn't come up with it themselves. I think that was probably one of the bigger things that I ran into. But in general, like, not seeing me for who I was and not trying to develop me, but rather we want to scold me for my faults, never give me praise for what I do well, but scold me for my faults and use it just as reasons that you want to see me gone, as opposed to sitting here saying, you're not wrong in what you're doing. You have a point, but maybe we can develop that further to where it will be better. For me, it was communication. Communication was I was a direct communicator. And to some, I came off as abrasive, aggressive. That was never my intention, but it was perceived that way. And perception is what 90% of communication. If you perceive my message a certain way, then that is what it is to you. So I finally got a leader, a mentor who did see the good qualities in me, who saw that I had a lot of potential. It just needed refinement. So I did go through and get a lot of classes and certifications on, I went through well, this really isn't a certification, but it was a class leadership course, was the Briggs-Myers. I did the Briggs-Myers personality test. That was one of the first things that she put me through, because she realized that I was not a bad communicator. I had the right ideas that I wanted to convey. It just, I couldn't get it across to my audience. So through the Briggs-Myers course that I went through and taking the test and all that, and there was another one that I took as well, but I can't remember the name of, but it was learning how to speak to other people's personalities so that they can receive your message. That was a total game changer for me. And it was just that one person. That's all it took. That one person who I still consider very near and dear to me to this day. To see that Rebecca's not bad. Rebecca's not a horrible employee. As a matter of fact, she's exactly who we want. She's full of great ideas. She's full of passion. She cares for her people. She cares about what she does. She just needed that refinement. And that's part of the problem, is when you have leaders who were not developed themselves, they don't know how to lead other leaders. So it just, the same problem just begets itself.
Right.
And that's what I feel like corporate America has become. Because, I mean, let's be honest, I'm sure you've heard these stories too. People getting put into positions because that's my friend, so I'm going to help them out, or that's this, or whatever the case may be. And that doesn't always necessarily mean that they were right for the position. And I'm not saying that that's what it is in every case, but you know, that has been my experience. That's a lot of what I saw, and a lot of, you know, the reasons why I felt the way I did. And yeah.
Well, I mean, I lived a lot of that too, and I think what's so ironic, insightful, profound, even funny is, and it probably depends on the culture of the corporation to some extent, but
yeah, because I've had some really good experiences too.
Where I was going though is, you said that their number one complaint was you were a direct communicator, because I would say everyone can get better, but you are a very effective communicator. I would tell you that's one of your strengths.
I
is
am
that
now.
You communicate. Is that you speak with intelligence. You are intelligent. You speak with confidence and authority. And one thing too is that when you're speaking, you speak fast, and that's one thing that I had to develop, because I'm such a critical thinker. When you're speaking quickly, it shows that you're putting concepts together very fast. And that's not always easy, especially in a work environment where there's a lot of complexities and nuances.
Yeah.
So it shows that you're a very intelligent and capable person.
Thank you.
But I bring that up because it could have easily been the other way around. And that's what I find with corporate America, is that anytime someone feels intimidated, maybe by someone else, they're going to nitpick. So for you, it's, oh, you're too direct. But if you were indirect, they would have said you're too passive. You're too indirect. That is the fallacy of corporate America. And let me give you an example. I went through 8 consecutive quarters. We had a leadership impact score at my prior job. I was a 4.96 when I left, out of a 5.0 scale. I'm not going to say it's the highest. I don't know, but I know for 100% because they showed me the scale. They have a scale of it. I was in the top 1% of 1% in my company of like 5,000 different people on that leader. And that is not an easy score to get, because it is based on my subordinates, my peers, and my partnership group, or my bosses.
Right.
So I have to please all 3 of those groups to get scored like that.
Yeah.
8 consecutive quarters of that.
That's good.
At my mid-years, I had 2 mid-years. I kid you not. This is what I was told to work on. My first year, speak faster. So I was working with a lot of people in the Northeast, like out of Manhattan, out of New York City, and they talk very fast. They want you to talk fast. They want you to get your ideas out, bring high energy. Don't say speak very fast. Even if I'm just filling the words like I am right now with a bunch of filler words, just go ahead and speak fast, because hey, they want you to speak fast, and when you speak fast, they think you're smart. When they think you're smart, they're going to buy from us. Just sell our services and make sure you talk really fast. Okay? My second year was You care too much about your job. Why don't you spend more time with your family? I literally told my boss, I said, because if I do that in 2 weeks, you're going to ask me why, I didn't meet a deadline, or, something wasn't absolutely perfect the way that you expect it. And look, I bring that stuff up because, again, when you're really good at what you do, they're going to find a reason. They're going to nitpick.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you can't get better. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't work on things. And I'm so glad that you brought up your mentor. Mentors are incredibly important. I would say in today's society, if someone is trying to climb the corporate ladder, because I know a lot of people listening to this show may be doing that, is you need to find external mentors. One of the best external mentors I found was I actually interviewed with a competitor firm, Big Four firm, and I met one of the national partners at a Big Four, and we talked on this video interview, this Zoom call for over an hour. And at the end of it, he wanted me to come join him and join his team. And I said, hey, I really enjoyed this conversation. In fact, I enjoyed it so much, I don't want to come work for you because I think that would change the dynamic of the relationship, which it would.
Yeah.
I said, I would prefer for us to stay in touch. I asked him, I said, would you be a mentor for me? Can we go meet, in a couple weeks for coffee? And I do need to get a hold of him because it's been 6 months. But ever since then, this was almost a year and a half ago now, every quarter we meet once a quarter for coffee and we just talk. And that was one of the most best mentors I ever found. And the reason I say find external mentors is because, especially the higher you go in corporate America, the more agendas you're going to run into. And you have to be very careful with internal mentors because they're going to be feeding you their own agenda a lot of, even if it's a subconscious bias.
Yeah.
Subconsciously, they're going to be feeding you their own agenda, and it may not align with your agenda.
Yeah,
so
there's an image to protect.
Yeah. 100%. And I just find so many similarities there of because I also went on that mission of, well, hey, maybe I just need to get this certification or go back to school for this, and finally you come to this point where it's like, wait, like I have more education than the people over me. It's not an issue of education or certification. It's really just a numbers game, and who's friends with who, and is this really my long-term home?
Yeah.
And if you can't say with confidence this is my long-term home, I'm not telling you to quit your job today, but you need to be looking. You need to be looking. You keep your eyes open and be looking for that next opportunity so that you can find your long-term home.
Absolutely.
So when you kind of came to that point, we've talked about it a little bit. What happened? What put you over, I guess, the threshold of what you're desiring to tolerate? Because you went through an entrepreneurial journey that we should at least touch on, and you ended up leaving that job to pursue, I would say, purpose and happiness over profits or the amount of money. And you made some other life changes too by downsizing and moving.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about kind of unpack that time period of your life for us?
Yeah. So I mean, that was all within 2023 actually, so it's all pretty recent events. I came really to at the end of 2022 going into 2023, the realization of I was just no longer happy at company, we'll just say company number one.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm now on my third one this year, but we'll get there. So with company number one, it was the lack of support despite all the things that I thought that I would bring ideas to the table, and the ideas that I would bring to the table would be met with just a bunch of, no, we can't do that. No, I don't like that, instead of looking for ways to incorporate them. Plus, I felt like the leadership that I was directly under didn't have my best interests at heart. I felt like the redheaded stepchild of our group. So there was that. And just after being tired of that and also seeing some kind of writing on the wall for the company was making some downsizing changes themselves, and I could see that me being part of that in the future. So I said, okay, my husband's at a new company now. I from what his experience has been, sounds like I would have a pretty decent experience as well. So ended up leaving the company number one for company number two, and company number two ended up being even worse than company number one in terms of experience, or with the experience that I had. A lot of that was just due to just poor decisions, not really thinking things through as a company, especially before putting large amounts of money on some of the things that they wanted to do, which had downstream impacts. And those downstream impacts were, yeah, we know we got some things going on over here that aren't really working right, but we expect you to work through them without, again, the support. Plus the leadership experience that I had, I was not championed, despite being told from the very get-go, through my interview and everything, oh, here's how we want to utilize you, we want to champion you, you're great. And then I get into the role and I'm there, and then it's like, yeah, bye-bye. So I was just tired of, like you said, what do I have to do? What other certification do I need to get? What more can I possibly do to make you people see my worth? Mm-hmm. And then I had that stop and wait moment, just like you. Like, I'm not happy. This isn't serving me. At what point am I going to say I'm enough? I am enough. Like, I don't understand why y'all can't see it, but I am enough. Mm-hmm. And I made the decision to leave and say, you know what? I'm going to take a bet on myself. Not really knowing exactly what it is that I wanted to do. I mean, I had some ideas, but even despite having the ideas, even at that time, I didn't necessarily have the belief that I could pursue those ideas, because just for the longest time, I was so just depressed and wallowing in just this puddle of, I don't know if self-pity or mm-hmm. what it was, but I just had a very negative just aura about mm-hmm. me, I guess you could say, just because of just not being happy with my work life. So at the beginning of September, I left job number two. Like I said, again, without really any direction. I Instacarted. That's what I did. I Instacarted. After I left, I know I could make at least enough money to be able to sustain, our life, as it is now. We made the decision to move in July, before I even left company number two, because we came to the realization, both me and my husband, that, we have 4,000 square feet of space for just him and I. Like, yes, we can afford our lifestyle, but where could we be diverting that money to? We could be diverting that money to travel. We could be diverting that money towards investments that would serve us now and in the future. So it was just, this, what, we're not even really happy with this house or with this area anyway. Why don't we divert these resources into what does serve us, what does make us happy? And so, all of it's just been a big just shedding what doesn't serve us, and putting money, time, effort, whatever, energy into what does.
And I love that, because I'm going through that. And I think it's important to say it's always a journey, right? Like, I talked about it on when we first met, like, hey, we're going to start with talking about your purpose and your identity as a person. I could tell that you've already done a lot of that work. I actually go back to that myself at least once a quarter now, because every time I go back to it, it becomes more clear. And then the more clear that becomes, everything in my life becomes more clear. And I bring that up because this isn't things that you do one time, right? And it's almost like cleaning, or which I'm glad I brought that up. I want to make that into a segue. Or like dusting, right? You don't dust your house one time and never have to dust it again. Right? You probably dust once a week. And I'm going through that again right now. Is you walked in my home and it's a mess downstairs. It's a mess in a lot of rooms, because I'm shedding all the things that don't serve us in my entrepreneurial journey. I've already done a lot of it, but there's still more to go. And sometimes it does become overwhelming. But that's where you remind yourself, hey, this is a journey. It's just a different way of cleaning my home. I clean my home once a week. There's never, if you go into it with this expectation that there's an end point, that's when you become overwhelmed. But if you go into these things with this expectation of, hey, like, I can continually improve, and I can continually, I call it addition by subtraction. I can continually subtract things out of my life that is actually going to add more value to my life or give me the ability in the future to add more value to my life.
You're making space. Yeah.
All the time by making space. And not to get upset or mad at yourself. I know sometimes when I go through, so my mom was a hoarder, and as I go through things, uh, I've read a lot of, her name is Marie Kondo as an example, and I forgive. Well, one, I say thank you I thank the item for what happiness it brought to me at that time period, or if it was a mistake or an impulse buy, which I dealt with that a lot, I would say I forgive myself, and I'm going to, a lot of things, it's not like trash. I will go sell them.
Yeah.
And I actually will say a small prayer that this item goes to some other person that has the space, that actually needs and appreciates it more than I did.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I
And
do
it's it's this whole, like you said, I love that, making space. Our Western society has conditioned us to be such a consumeristic society that many people have these desires and they're endless. And the reason why they don't have what they really want is because there's no space. They filled up their life with busyness. They filled up their life with obligations. They filled up their life with things and people that, like you said, aren't serving them. And then they wonder why they're, at the end of the day, they're going to bed wanting more and wondering why they can't have more. Well, you can't have more because there's no more room. Make the space. So knowing that, you made these changes, what happened next? I want to get into, and maybe I got the timeline a little bit confused in my head. Can you talk a little bit about your experience when, I know it didn't last very long because you had a health issue, but your own little entrepreneurial journey in your cleaning business?
Yeah, I had always, I think I'm almost kind of like you, have a serial entrepreneur mindset. I'm always constantly thinking of ideas as well as ways to monetize them. And I had thought, well, I think I do a really good job cleaning my house overall, that, pretty low overhead. That's something I can get started pretty quickly, and hopefully maybe it gains momentum, something I can do on the side while I, still work my main corporate job, with the intention to, hopefully get it to where I could quit my corporate job. That was the plan. And it was picking up steam. I had started a social media campaign. I built my own Facebook page. Bought, invested into some, really good heavy duty cleaning equipment, commercial cleaning equipment, a commercial steamer, a Ricker vacuum, which alone was like $1,500. I mean, it was a top of the line, good quality vacuum. Because I wanted to provide the best experience. And initially, to kind of make it work, I started, doing move out cleaning. So when people, moved out of their home or moved out of their rental, wanting to make it ready, I guess I think that's really what they call it, make ready for the next person. That's what I started with, because I didn't want to be responsible for touching or being around people's things. Just give me an empty space, I'll clean it, make it ready for the next person. That was something that I thought was really simple and easy to do. And it was growing. I fortunately know some people in the real estate business who helped me get some clients, and word got around, I guess, or either that or just my advertising reached the right person, where I had someone reach out to me, wanting to do offer me a $10,000 contract to clean some of their rentals on a full-time basis. But that was also at the time that I started to begin to have my autoimmune issues, or to what I know now is, my autoimmune problems. So I unfortunately had to set my cleaning business down for a while, because, it was really physically taxing. It was very mentally taxing, trying to balance, because at the time I was also going to school, work, being a wife, being a mom, and then, also running, my own business. Something had to give. And that was the one thing that just, I can't obviously walk away from my marriage. I mean, I could, but not doing that. Can't walk away from my kid. Couldn't walk away from my full-time job just because at the time it was my main source of income. So yeah, it was the one thing that had to go. And that was tough because that was I was wanting to build that to be my ticket out, and then just to see that fall, I was like, what now?
Right. Well, and what I want to make certain here is, despite how you might feel and as heartbreaking as it might be that it didn't work out, it wasn't a failure.
Right.
And the reason that it wasn't a failure is because that is such a learning experience. And the fact that you started something that picked up momentum that fast is a success in itself.
Yeah.
And what's great is people listening too can already tell the magnitude of the value that you were adding to the economy, because you said, man, I found this easy, but I can tell you, unfortunately my parents are too cheap. But my parents own an apartment complex, and make readies are super important, and they're not easy.
No.
Not for most people. And you had filled a gap. You had found a gap, right? Like, for anyone watching thinking about entrepreneurship, that's the key.
Yeah.
Find the space. We just talked about there's a lot of space in our economy where there's gaps of value, where some need isn't being met. That's what you have to do. You have to find a need that's not being met currently and go fill that space and add that value. If you go add that value in that gap, there's a successful entrepreneur right there. Now, unfortunately, autoimmune issues are a serious thing, and they're a very real thing. My wife deals with Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid autoimmune condition, and our health and our family always come before business, at least for me. So you made the right decision. It wasn't a failure. It was a fantastic learning experience. And not only that, it's a feather in your cap.
Yeah.
No matter what, no one can take that away from you. You were a successful entrepreneur, and it doesn't mean you can't be again. And also, things all happen for a reason, and you making that decision led you to where you are today, which I want to get there, because I'm super excited for people to kind of hear where this all culminated to, and I'm going to make sure to brag on you, but I want to hear it in your words first. So you kind of go through this kind of sad experience of having to shut down that business. I'm assuming this was around the same time where you made the move to downsize, which we talked about. Now you're in a home in a neighborhood. So I just want to catch people up, make sure that they don't miss any of this, because it all ties together. You made all these decisions based on making space for you and what you and your husband, to build the life that you and your husband want.
Right.
And it's all kind of crescendoing to this moment. So why don't you tell what was the next step, where you are today?
Well, once we got settled into the new house and I left job number 2 and spent some time Instacarting, that was a lot of solitude is great. I just want to say this, solitude is great. I had a lot of that Instacarting, a lot of driving around, a lot of being by yourself grocery shopping. And I found, I said, okay, you know what, I'm going to find something steady, because while Instacart was fun and it did make pretty good money, it's not consistent and it's not guaranteed. So I wanted something that I didn't have to worry about, like, oh my gosh, if I take a day off, I'm not going to get paid, type of thing. So I in my Instacarting, I don't want to say the name of the company that I'm at now, but just, out of respect for them, I don't know what their social media policy is at the moment, but what I will say is that the place that I found, it is in the grocery business, I'll say that, was just through my direct observation when I would go in, not only as a customer, but as an Instacarter. What I found were employees happy to be there. What I found were leaders getting their hands dirty instead of just delegating everything off and watching from an office. I found happy customers. I found just a culmination of almost everything it was that I had been looking for. The only thing that it didn't necessarily provide at the time, which I had already shed this off anyway to a certain extent, was, you know, the grand title and the grand salary. But I told myself I don't even really care. Just, you know, honestly, my intentions were just get me into something that I think I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to have fun doing, and that I can just be surrounded by happy people and people who care. And then I will look for the opportunities as they arise. But just please, just let me get somewhere where I can just be happy enough to have something stable. And I found that, and actually it's turning into being so much more. As a matter of fact, you know, because I have really, really great leaders now who do value what I, you know, the skill sets that I bring to the table and the ideas that I bring to the table. um they want to meet with me to discuss, you know, some opportunities that can further increase our sales, you know, ideas that I originated. So, you know, just to finally have someone, you know, be willing to listen to me, to say, hey, you know what, Rebecca brings a lot of value to the table. She's really smart. She's really knowledgeable. We want to utilize her. That's it. It's the beginning of having my prayers answered, I'll say. But I have a lot of bigger goals and aspirations, and I don't know if you want, should we continue on with that piece, or did you have another?
Yeah, no, I think definitely want to hear your future goals, but I'm all about celebrating the small wins. And even though it feels small, they're not, these aren't not small wins. These are big wins. And I want to quickly kind of summarize here about what happens when you start making decisions that I would say are congruent with who you are as a person, and you start aligning your purpose and your identity and your core values to your actual decision making, rather than what happens to a lot of people, even myself back, and we're all the same way, we all came from this, is you start as a child, you make decisions based on who you are, and then you get conditioned by our society to start making decisions based on money, status, fame, whatever the case may be, your desires,
Yeah.
essentially, right? And then for, I would say, people who go through similar journeys as us, is you start going back to saying, you know what? I'm going to stop believing the lies, because the lies of chasing money, chasing status, chasing a title, whatever the case may be, whatever you're striving for, aren't leaving me happy. In fact, I feel empty. I feel tired. I feel weary. And to quote a Bible verse, you know, Jesus, whether you depend on him for your salvation as I do, or you just look at him as a good teacher, said, "My yoke is easy, my burden is light." And despite your religious beliefs, I want my life to feel that way. I don't want to be weary all the time. Um, and it's also in the Old Testament too. You know, Isaiah talked about, you know, when you make the Lord your strength, you know, you're basically uh, going to soar on the wings of eagles, and that's how I want to feel in my life. And so when you start aligning your core values, who you are at your highest self, your purpose, your passion, your identity, to your actual choices and how your life looks, and it's congruent, that's when this radical transformation that words really can't describe begins to take place.
Yeah.
And, you know, no, you may not be the richest in terms of dollar amount, but you start realizing, like, wow, like, I'm taken care of. And I don't have to worry and stress and chase and be exhausted all the time and empty, feel so empty all the time and unfulfilled to feel this way. And that's how we were designed to live our lives in congruence to who we are. That's why we were created. That's why we bear the image of God. And that's what I want to make clear, is you started making these choices similar to me, And people look at you and you're like, wow, like, and if you haven't experienced this yet, you will. I went and gave a talk on this past Monday, and I've known this person for 7 years, and I'm a guest speaker talking about AI and advanced technology and trying to help prepare people for some of this disruptive technology. And this person I do this for free, so I wasn't hired, but this person who chose me to come and give this talk, I've known them for almost 8 years. I walk in and I said, "Hey, Elizabeth, how are you?" And she titted up and she goes, "Oh my goodness, Sean, I didn't recognize you." And I bring that up because my external physical appearance has not changed since the last time I saw her. I saw her about a year ago, so I'd already lost weight. I weighed about the same. Nothing about me physically has changed. It was my confidence, it was my aura, it was my inner change. And I want to bring that up because if you start making decisions that align with who you are, you change so much that other people take notice.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. It might take some time for them to take notice. Just like, I don't know if you've ever been on a weight loss journey. I bring up the weight loss because that's something that's I've struggled with my whole life, is staying at a healthy, consistent weight. But that interchange is even more profound, even more significant than a weight loss transformation. I've had more people kind of do double takes and say like, "Oh my goodness, I don't even recognize you anymore," from an interchange than any external change I've ever had. And I've been a person that's lost 100 pounds. So think about that external change, and yet my internal change, my inner change, has been more profound, more powerful than even an external one.
Your light shines differently now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so does yours. And that's why I wanted to sum all that up and let you have this space, because your journey is so inspiring that people can be fulfilled. It's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and tell people that it's easy. You went through a lot of loneliness. I went through a lot of loneliness. You brought it up, solitude. You have to get comfortable being alone. Even if you're married, you have to be comfortable being alone, because you're not going to change anyone else.
Yeah.
It's all about yourself. And then you also have to teach yourself. One thing that I struggled with is trying to be like my wife's coach, as an example. I can't be my wife's coach. I really can't be anyone's coach unless they want me, invite me to be their coach, because every journey, people can help people as coaches, but that individual has to make the choice themselves.
Yeah.
It's not something that can be forced. And when you're going through it, all you want to do is shout at the top of your lungs, "Oh my goodness, if you just do these things, you won't believe the transformation you're going to go through. You're going to feel like this brand new person. I just want you to feel," and you do. You want to share it. And I'm not telling you not to share, but you have to be careful. At least I do, because I got so excited. I wanted to bring it for everybody. But you have to find the people who are ready and who want it. Yeah. And it takes time, and it's so worth it. And I think you can attest to it being worth it, but it's not easy. No. And I don't want to pretend. I don't want to take away from the pain, the hardship, and the struggle that people go to really have that strong internal sense of who they are and all that work that you put in. So, yes. So now that the last thing I want to say is to brag on you a little bit, is now she's in a job where not only is she appreciated, they're starting to groom her for bigger things. And let me tell you guys, she hasn't been there that long. And so my point of that is, when you start making those decisions, things line up in a way where you don't have to work for them so hard. That you start attracting them to you, because once you see that you're worthy, the world knows that you're worthy. I came up with this quote, is the highest form of confidence is vulnerability. And the reason for that is because when you're vulnerable, you're giving the world everything the world needs to hurt you, but at the very same time, telling it that you can't hurt me anymore.
Yeah.
And so, with that being said, I do want to hear, what are your aspirations? You have all this going for you. Um, and I want to talk about it in balance of being grateful for the moment, saying that it is good to plan for the future. It's good to have hopes and dreams, but the importance is living in the present moment. But yes, tell us a little bit about where you want your life to go from here.
Actually, I kind of want to piggyback on that just for a moment, because I've let go. I used to have very specific goals, and not to say that I still don't, right? Like, just to start off, ultimately, in the next 10 years when my daughter graduates high school, my husband and I want to be living in Florida, no longer living in Texas. We want to be residents of Florida. But like, I used to be very obsessed with the specifics of that, like where we were going to live, what we needed to do, and what we were going to do while we were there, and what we needed to do now in order to be able to get there. And through all of my journeys, especially, the letting go of job number 2 to now transition into where I'm at now. And I also want to take a little bit of a segue point to get back to what I was talking about. You're absolutely right. When you align yourself with everything, with who you are, things, I can't tell you guys, just start happening. And you don't even, when you're not used to that, it feels really weird. It feels very I don't know if uncomfortable is even the right word. It's just, you're not used to it. But yes, when you align yourself, things start falling into place, in some cases very, very fast. And the bragging point you made on me, thank you, by the way, that fell into place very, very fast. I came into this job not with really any expectations of climbing the ladder or anything like that. I just wanted to be happy. Give me a job where I can come do my normal 9 to 5 and just be happy. But with that being said, I say all that to say this: I don't have a lot of super huge or far out expectations, at least not in detail. Now that I have found that I am comfortable with the company, or where I'm at now, I would like to grow, and I would like to continue that journey of seeing, where it is that they would like to see me grow. And so this has been fun so far to kind of see where this is going. What I'd like to design for myself on the side, going back to what we talked about earlier in the podcast, I want to help other leaders, find who they are so they can lead authentically, so we can build back a better corporate America, so we can give all these people and themselves, what they deserve, and what they should be giving other people. And that's what I want to do, is come to develop a coaching business of sorts, as well as a podcast of my own, as a byproduct maybe of that coaching business. But all in all, just kind of seeing, where that would take me. We do have some stokes in the fire, from an investment perspective. We're looking at, seeing, for my husband, what kind of business he would like to get into. We know so far that it's food based. Maybe one day you guys will see him out there in his own food truck. You never know. But we're also looking at, we're looking objectively, what investments do we want to make? What moves do we want to make that align with who we are? As well as, we're studying every day. I know, and I'll go ahead and, because I don't think we actually did mention this in detail. I have found a really good spiritual home in studying Kabbalah and Orthodox Judaism, particularly those who I follow are Chabad. So while I am not Jewish, I have not converted or anything like that. Interestingly enough, and I hadn't told you this, I did find out, I have some family on my dad's side of the family. They're from Spain. I found out that they are Sephardic Jews. So it is kind of interesting that I have this alignment with the faith. But yeah, I mean, just through Kabbalah, I've been able to see, like I told you before we started this podcast, the message and the meaning and everything. So instead of, something not going the way that I wanted to and being upset about it or thinking that I'm the failure, I'm looking at it now. What is God trying to tell me? What is the universe trying to tell me? What is the lesson in this? Why is this happening? And I look at it with gratitude now.
Mm-hmm.
I approach life with so much more gratitude now. Like, yeah, I did go through some really, really tough things, but I was forged by fire. I
Yep.
was made into who I was because of those experiences. So I give grace to them. I forgive myself for the mistakes I have made in the past, because they've also played a part in making me who I am today. So I just approach everything so much more lighter now, without any real super high, super detailed expectations. It's just, if I like it, I'm going to pursue it. And I put a lot of thought and intention into everything now. And I found that by doing that, I am so much more happier. I'm kinder to others. I'm a better human. I'm a better mom. I'm a better wife. So better friend.
It's incredible. A good friend of mine who I actually met on a podcast. He's the host of the startup show on Daily Grit. So this guy is incredible. He's interviewed over 2,000 CEOs and founders. His name is Philip Lanos. And he told me, based on an answer I'd given him, he said, it sounds like you leave room for the universe. And it's something that Tony Robbins brought up on Unleash the Power Within. And he said it a little bit differently. But he talked about how when you kind of get to this state, he calls it a peak state. And I agree, it's a great peak state to be in, is you can almost be playful.
Yeah.
Like you can wake up each morning despite the struggles, and the struggles just make you stronger. And when you can appreciate them that way, it's like, I lift weights. Okay, well, lifting weights isn't fun. It's a struggle. But I lift the weight because that struggle makes me physically stronger. The things in your life that you're struggling with are just making you emotionally, spiritually, and at times physically stronger too. And when you can wake up each morning with that authentic gratitude of, I wonder what life has in store for me today. And hey, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, as long as I'm still breathing, I still get another chance. I still get another chance to play tomorrow. And you can address it with this kind of childlike wonder of playfulness rather than it being a battle. Life doesn't have to be a battle. It can be a dance. It can be a video game. It can be playtime. You can reframe these things of life happens for you, not to you. And even from the first time we met, it's only been a few weeks, you have just grown in confidence and it's going to sound almost hypocritical, but you've grown in confidence and vulnerability and authenticity in such a profound way that you today are completely different from the Rebecca that I started with about 3 or 4 weeks ago during our first phone call. And that is incredible.
Thank you.
And so I'm just so happy to have met and to call you my friend and to have you on today. So with that being said, I always give my guests kind of the last word. If you could sum it up, if you want to tie this together in a bow, the floor is yours.
Put God first, always. I think without God, without your daily study, I mean, it's just reading your Bible, or just whatever God you serve or whatever faith that you have, put some time into that. It's such a good guide just for life and all things in general. And realize that you don't have to be unhappy. Nobody has to be unhappy, whether it's your work life, your marriage. You were given the ability by the Creator to do something about it. And actually not doing something about it, in my opinion, this is what I tell myself all the time, take it with a grain of salt on the listener's end, but for me, by not doing something about it, it's almost like a slap in the Creator's face, because the Creator's literally going, I gave you this brain, I gave you the ability to reason, I gave you this intelligence through me, use it. You have no reason to pity yourself no more. You have no reason to wallow in your own self anymore. And so I just want to encourage others that you have the power within yourself. It's always been within you. If you need some help with that, Sean's an awesome guy. You know, I want to take a moment to brag on him as a mentor and coach. He's been really, really great to work with and help me. I had come, like you said, I had come to a really, really good place, you know, when I came to you for coaching, but, you know, just in a short amount of time, you know, I credit, you know, your help in helping me see that within myself. So to sum it up, just know that you can make the changes. The power has always been within you. You know, let Sean help you, and you know, if I resonate with you, I'd love to be able to help you as well, either way. So that's where I ended.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. We're going to have to do this again.
Yes, this was